Good morning, you guys. It's Friday. Y'all made it. For everybody who works a traditional work week, you are at the end. You get to enjoy some 2 days of rest or getting 2 days of getting caught up on some house duties or just going away. It's Mother's Day weekend. And so hopefully you ladies that are moms have something planned. Hopefully you ladies who are aunts or act in any kind of capacity where you care for and nurture children, that you enjoy your weekend, that you have some rest. Um, Generally on my Mother's Day weekend, because I am always mothering, I try to take that as a day for me to not mother, right? That's how I normally do it. But this weekend, something different is going on, so I have to be in capacity of being a mom still, and that happens occasionally. But generally, on my Mother's Day, I do try to take a break because mothers that had custody of their children, that have been the primary caregiver of their children, whether you are married or not, because a lot of times that ends up happening that way, even if you are in a relationship where you are with the dad, the mom still is the main nurturer, still the one picking up, dropping off, um, getting arranging the care of the child, when the parents cannot be the primary caregiver of the child, um, making sure that the schoolwork is done and all of those things. And I'm not saying dads don't do that, but we know, us mamas know, right? So I hope you all get to enjoy that, however you enjoy it, whether it's that you spend your time with your kids on that day or you take some time to yourself on that day. I hope you all get to enjoy it. So y'all, I am back, and is all I gotta say. So my thumbnail today is a picture of the scales of justice and Lady Justice. And I wanted y'all to be able to see more of the picture because while she's holding the scale, she also has a sword, right? She also has a sword because that scale is, and that blindfold, right, is to signify that justice, in order to determine what's just, you need a degree of blindness, right? In order to determine what is just, you need some degree of blindness, also known as what is called the veil of ignorance, right? In order to try to create fairness, there must exist some kind of veil of ignorance to say, listen, I'm not going to look at this situation from a perspective of who is going to be the victor and who is going to lose, right? Who's going to be the loser, right? I have to look at this evenly. I have to apply the rules fairly, right? In order for me to be able to properly divide the word of truth. So, in that picture of Lady Justice, you have her in a blindfold, you have her with a scale in order to show balance, and then you have her with a sword because she's going to rightly divide the word of truth, right? That's what she's supposed to do. That's what's supposed to happen. And so I put that as my thumbnail today because I want it to be very crystal clear to everyone that we must apply balance, that we must apply fairness in every situation that we examine, that we must look to our core, to our ethos, and say, am I really being fair based on how I've established the rules and guidelines for how I observe and how I assess situations from one scenario to the other, right? And so I thought it was interesting, and I thought that this was an interesting way in order to talk about that because we are looking at a situation where, in the eyes of some, Me Too did not win, right? Me Too did not win. Chef, good morning, Miller. How are you doing? Chef Mila lost, right? The case. The prosecutors did not prove their case in the case against Stephon Diggs, right? And so there are some that are celebrating because they are saying Me Too did not win. There are some that are celebrating because they are using this as a justification to say, see, I told you there is a thing that the government has, there is some type of agenda that people are going after these celebrities. We don't understand what is going on, right? Why are they doing this? Why are they targeting these successful black men, right? This is a win in their eyes, right? This is a win for them. Now, I want to be clear on my position when it came to the testimony in relation to Chef Mila. I mentioned the other day that I do not believe that her testimony was credible. There were several reasons that I mentioned that why I don't believe that her testimony was credible, right? However, I do believe that an altercation did occur that day. I do not believe Stephon Diggs when he, in his defense's theory, that no altercation occurred, right? I believe that that is what they presented, and I believe that that was sellable to the jury in order to get without a reasonable doubt. They could not convict based on a reason. Her testimony was horrible. I don't think they needed to put on any case at all. I think after her testimony, they could have rested the case and it would have still been a not guilty. But based on their theory and based on their defense, I thought they did a good job at trying to fool some of the people some of the time, but they don't fool all of the people all of the time, right? And so when I paid attention to how they established the timeline for the day of what Stephon Diggs did, I noticed that they left the gap where Miller says that this altercation occurred. Why didn't you give us some evidence of what Stephon Diggs was doing at the time that Miller said that the altercation occurred? You showed us a video of him leaving the house. You didn't show us a video of him returning to the house. If you had showed us a video of him returning to the house, and it would have been after the time that Chef Miller said that the incident occurred, then maybe I would say, okay, she's flat out lying, right? I would not give way to the fact that I would say, okay, then no altercation occurred. Y'all sold me. Y'all showed me a video of him leaving the house. Y'all showed me that he returned to the house after she says the incident occurred. And then here comes the hydration therapist. Here comes the masseuse. They say they don't witness anything at all. And then she's gone from the house, right? That's a solid timeline. The problem that I saw with the timeline that the defense provided was that they left this gap of time. And all they had to do was create a reasonable doubt. So I think it was sufficient, right? So that's my position. I think an altercation occurred. I don't know who was the aggressor in that altercation. She could have very well been the aggressor. And I mentioned that. She could have been the aggressor and he could have been trying to stop her. I believe that based on the text messages that were given to us, right? What we were able to see, what was admissible in court, right? According to those text messages, I can see him being upset and going in that room and telling her that she got to leave. If I tell you, if you are arguing with me over money, right? And I say to you, I'm not giving you shit. And then you call me the P word. And then I say to you, if I'm P, prove it. Go get whoever you want to go get and show me I'm P. Make me give you the money, right? And then the response of that individual is bet, and you in the room in my house, more than likely I'm gonna go in there too and say, bitch, get out. More than likely, I'm gonna do that too. And so I'm only thinking like a reasonable, rational person that is in this situation, and I can see that this is where this altercation occurred. This is where it started, right? And so, but based off of her testimony, I did not think she was credible. Based off the fact that they left some ambiguity when in regard to the timeline and left us questioning, well, was he actually home or wasn't he? He might have been. All I'm saying is the defense didn't give us nothing to show us what time did he return home, right? And so based on that, it would have been a not guilty for me, right? In the trial. However, something happened yesterday. And I had a feeling that this was going to happen. Because if you paid attention to Mila when she was trying to testify, it was a lot of stuff she was trying to say that she wasn't being allowed to say, right? And so I was like, you want to know what? This is going to be a similar situation of people arguing about admissible and non-admissible evidence, right? Some people not understanding why some evidence is admissible and some of it is not. The evidence that is not admissible might not pertain to the accusation. But when making a character judgment, it does tell us a bigger story. And this is why sometimes us, when we're not the jurors, right? When we don't know something about, when we have studied or know something more about a situation, we will come to a different conclusion than the jurors because we have a different set of situations, circumstance, facts, background on the case, right? And so yesterday, Mila joined um a I don't know if they were on X or where they were, but she joined a call. She was on the call. She was on the phone. She joined a live. I don't know if it was on X or Instagram. I'm not sure exactly where it was. I'm trying to find the entire thing because I only saw pieces. I'm trying to find the entire thing. But she joined with Gorgeous Doll. Now, Gorgeous Doll used to be the ex of Future. Okay? Now, I don't know who else she then went with, but she used to be Future's ex, and she was a stripper, a former stripper. I don't know if she's still stripping or not. She was a former stripper. I think now she probably has some rich men that help her to establish her lifestyle. I don't know if she's only doing private parties. I don't know if she's only doing content creation. All I know is that she was a former stripper and she was in a relationship previously with Future. Okay? Mila, Chef Mila, joins a live with Gorgeous Doll. And Gorgeous Doll is making proclamations that she received some receipts. And these receipts were things that were not allowed to be admissible in court. And right now, Chef Mila is awaiting a okay from her attorney on how to proceed with releasing these receipts, right? So there were some claims that there were some things that the prosecutors, the hiccup that happened before the trial, and why everything looked so chaotic, right? Was because there were some things that the prosecutor's office thought that they were going to be able to proceed with in regards to evidence that they were not able to admit into evidence. There is some accusations that there were some things that were not submitted on purpose. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, right? I don't know if that's true or not. But I know I done heard the same shit before, right? When the story is being told on the other side of the fence, on the other side of the train track, I done heard these same types of allegations towards the prosecution before. And the title of this live is Let's Be Fair. So all I'm saying is, let's be fair. Let's be fair. If we can look at what prosecutors are doing in order to what's being said and alleged that they do, that they shape and determine the outcomes of cases, well, it can work in both directions. It can work in both directions. If you feel as though that there is some political reason or some type of payoff or something that can take place and transpire on the behalf of a victim and to bring a case against someone, and you think that those people are capable of doing that when it involves a victim, you have to apply it equally when it comes to a defendant. You have to think that they would do the same possible things. That they would take a payoff, they would take a bribe, they would take a favor, they might take some concert tickets, some football season passes, anything. Because if you are saying that these prosecutors are able to be influenced in this way when it comes to them going after individuals, on the behalf of victims, you have to believe that they will change their mind and go in the pendulum will go the exact opposite way, and they will change their mind on the behalf of the defendants for a little favor, because that's their character. It would be the character of the individual. It would be the character of the system that you say is in place. You have to believe it can happen both ways. And so, in this live, there's some implications that possibly some of those things happened. That possibly some witnesses were, quote unquote, tampered with and decided to change the way of their testimony, right? This is what is being alleged by Mila. Now, through Gorgeous Doll, because Mila, from what I saw, the clips that I saw, the portions of the live that I saw, Mila just says hello to let it be known she's on the phone. Gorgeous Doll is the one speaking, and she's speaking about what she's seen from Mila. Okay? So, this is according to Mila. And I want to know, why would everybody be so skeptical to believe Mila when you believe it when it's in the other direction? You have to apply these things equally. You have to apply these things fairly, right? If you believe that the prosecutors and the government will create a case in order to go after a particular defendant, right? Because they're a target, because it is a witch hunt, you surely have to believe that that same character that government and those prosecutors possess could be actually working on the behalf of the defendant to throw a case. Now, this isn't what I'm saying. This is what's been discussed out here. You know what I'm saying? Like, this has been discussed out here, that the government and the state, depending on which court system you're in, that they are purposefully going after and targeting certain people. But we know that we have seen on multiple occasions where the government and the state has concealed things for these same people at times that we are now saying are the targets, right? We've seen that. There is evidence of that. But we never allow the pendulum to swing the other way. And this is the bias that a lot of, especially women, but victims in general, because it happens to men who say they are victims too. Men get treated worse when they come out and say that they are victims than women. Okay? They get treated worse. And the majority of the time when those men come out and they say they are victims at the hands of other men. That is overwhelming. And they get treated the same way as these women. They are looked at as effeminate because they are coming forward to talk about their victimization. And so all I want us to do today is to participate in the exercise where we swing the pendulum to the other direction. And we are going to apply the rules fairly. And we are going to say that we have to give Mila the same benefit that we gave to those defendants that we thought that for some reason the state or the government was targeting. Because you believe that it is in the character of these systems to do these kinds of things. And if you believe that it's in the character of the system to do it, they could do it in one direction or the other. They can do it on behalf of the victims or the plaintiffs, and they can do it on behalf of the defense. And so there is some suggestion that there was possibly some kind of foul play, that something happened. And like I said, I agree. Mila was a horrible witness. I'm the one who said from the beginning that it wasn't a testimony that Stephon Diggs had to give. He could have left it there and rest the case. And me as a juror, I would have come back with a not guilty because I'm putting my blindfold on. I'm taking my scales of justice and I'm going to take that sword and rightly divide the word of truth. And Mila failed epically. But we don't know what was behind that fail. We don't know what was behind that testimony. We don't know what got her all the way frazzled before she got on that stand. And I mentioned on Monday, prior to the jury selection, that there was some rumor that she wanted to plead the fifth about some things. Now, this wasn't discussed prior to Monday, This is something that we heard Monday prior to jury selection. So when when Gorgeous Doll suggested that something happened right before the trial that was a shock to Mila, right? Well, maybe that's true. Maybe that's true because where did that? Why did it only come up about pleading the fifth on Monday? It seemed like it was some kind of conversation that took place between the prosecutors and Mila, and then this is when this rumor, these whispers of a pleading the fifth began, right? Or at least I just heard it on Monday. I hadn't heard it prior to Monday, and I had been watching some footage of leading up to the coverage. So I'm pretty sure that even if it started prior to Monday, it wasn't that many days prior to Monday that this rumor of pleading the fifth started, that this idea that there was supposed to be some more witnesses that did not show, that did not come. Mila and the officer were not the only witnesses that the state had to call. But the people on her behalf, they didn't come, they didn't show. This is what she's saying. I'm not saying it. This is what she's saying. So, good morning, Michelle. So all I'm doing is trying to provide the same benefit of the doubt that people want applied to a defendant when circumstances like this happen. I'm giving the same weight to the plaintiff to prove her case. Now she can prove it outside of the court of law, and she can present it in the court of public opinion. Because this is where often we see a lot of people wanting us to apply our judgment when it comes to a defendant in the case. They want to sway the court of public opinion. We have heard multiple occasions that the goal is to sway the court of public opinion, because when you sway the court of public opinion, then you can sway the position of the jurors. Now, that's how it's discussed often when they are talking about the defense doing this. That when the defense is allowing social media to be used as a tool in order to try to get quote unquote information, and I'm saying that loosely, right, out to the public, that is an attempt to not taint, sway the court of public opinion, so that hopefully when a juror gets on the case, that they may have the mindset of a not guilty verdict. We have heard this presented, right? But when the prosecution attempts to put out a brief, like in the David case, right, explaining the evidence that they have collected, things they have investigated, in order to make the public aware of what they found, of what's going on why they have arrested this individual, then oftentimes people aren't using the word sway public opinion. They say they are attempting to taint jurors. Y'all get where I'm going? You see what I'm saying? Right? Let's be fair. Let's be fair. So today I want to be fair to Mila, right? And I want to give her opportunity to present her position in the court of public opinion, something she was not able to do prior to the trial because she had a trial to go and testify in. And I'm sure she was instructed by her attorneys, by the prosecutor's office, by anybody with any good common sense, that she needed to be quiet prior to her going into court. Well, now she had her day in criminal court on this situation. And the chips fell where they fell. And Stefan got a not guilty verdict, rightfully so, based on what we saw presented before us. But I want to challenge everyone to listen to what Mila's receipts reveal. And then I want you to make an honest opinion about what you see. Now, maybe Mila's receipts are bullshit. Maybe it's garbage. Maybe we will see right through it. Just like I could see right through that timeline that the defense attempted to create. Right? Maybe her receipts are garbage. And if I feel like her receipts are garbage, I'm more than likely to say I think it's garbage. I think it's a bunch of malarkey. Because I'm putting on a blindfold because at the end of the day, whether Mila is right or whether Stefan is right, it is of no consequence to me. I am trying to look at this as objectively as possible and say, who do I think was in the right and who do I think was in the wrong when it comes to this crime being committed? Who do I think I'm more likely to believe or not, right? Based on what we saw in court, I don't know whether to believe either one of them. I happen to believe that a altercation did occur, but I don't know who was the aggressor. I do think that it is possible, based on some of the way that Mila displayed herself on the stand, that it's possible she could have been the aggressor. And I think that that is something that maybe if the jurors come out and talk, they might say the same as me. Well, we felt like it was a possibility that an altercation did occur, but we're not sure how did that altercation ensue because we saw some behavior on the stand that let us know maybe she was the aggressor. And maybe he was trying to restrain her from being aggressive towards him, right? We didn't come to a not guilty because we don't think that an altercation occurred, because we want to know, since Stephon Diggs' defense decided to give us a timeline, why is there a gap in the timeline? Why is there a major gap at the time that she alleged that this event occurred? You gave us everything else we needed surrounding that time in order for us to trap us, to trick us into thinking nothing happened or you might not have been there. But you failed to give us what we needed for that 3 o'clock to 3:30 time frame. Why didn't you give us that? Why didn't you show us some type of video that existed inside of the house at that time? Why? To show it was quiet. You couldn't hear anything. You couldn't hear any echoes. There was no disturbance. Why didn't you show us a video of your vehicle returning back to let us know I wasn't even at the house. I didn't return back into the house until 3:45. So there's no way this could have happened between 3 and 3:30. But you didn't do that. And all you need to get that not guilty is ambiguity. And so you got that from me. I agree to that. But I am not convinced that nothing happened that day. Based on the text message, based on the gap in that timeline, I think there was some type of altercation. I'm not sure what happened in the altercation. And as a result, you get the not guilty. You get it. You get it. Right? But now I'm going to listen to what Mila has to say in the court of public opinion. Because that's what people want people to do, right? They want them to look at evidence that is not admissible in court in order to make a final judgment. Everybody doesn't always agree with what's allowed to be admissible in court and what's not allowed. And in the court of public opinion, they don't have to follow those rules of evidence, right? We have to respect the rules of evidence when it comes to our criminal justice system. But in the court of public opinion, we don't respect that. Hey Angie, how you doing? Right. We don't respect the rules of evidence in the court of public opinion. We have to respect it in our criminal justice system. That's what it allows. But in the court of public opinion, no one respects the rules of evidence. And so I must be fair. And I must disregard the rules of evidence that was just presented in this case. And I got to listen to Mila's receipts that she has, that she is saying that there was some kind of conspiracy to keep her receipts and her evidence and her things from coming into court. Because y'all want us to be fair, right? And what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So I have to consider all of the things, all of the conspiracies, all of the excuses, all of the justifications that Mila is coming up with to say why she lost in the court of in the court of law. right? Because in the court of public opinion, that's what we do. We examine everything. So once it is determined, once Mila has this roundtable discussion with her attorneys, and it is determined what she is allowed to move forward with and which she is not, then we will get to see. And I am pretty sure that Mila's receipts, if they are reliable receipts, are probably worth a lot of money. There are probably some people who are willing to pay for what Mila has to say. She's not, so Angie, she's not yet doing a official interview. She contacted Gorgeous Dog. I don't know if you, because you know who all of these people are. You know more about their background than me. But what I know about Gorgeous Dog is she used to go with Future, like who didn't? And then she used to go with Future, and she used to be a stripper. Now she's a influencer. Um, and so Mila, Chef Mila, and Gorgeous Doll, they are friends. And Mila contacted Gorgeous Doll. Mila wasn't speaking on the live. Gorgeous Doll was doing all the talking. But Mila has allowed Gorgeous Doll to see these receipts. And Gorgeous Doll said that once Mila is able to get the okay from her attorney, Gorgeous Doll will be releasing some of these receipts, right? And I don't know who else that she will be giving them to, or who else she may be talking to about them, but I'm pretty sure that there are some people who believe that Mila's receipts are probably worth some money. And it's probably worth more than the $100,000 that Mila alleges that Stephon Diggs attempted to offer her to recant her statement. He's not willing to pay 5.5 million. I don't think her receipts is worth 5.5 million. But maybe her receipts are worth a couple of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so I think in the court of public opinion, we got to watch and see what happens. He won in the criminal court. That's a big, huge victory. Will Mila come out with these receipts? Will there be some kind of settlement? I don't think Stephon Diggs' release from the New England Patriots had only to do with the legal things he was getting himself into, because Stephon Diggs' performance has been not that great. I mean, they can create a justification for why he was let go. Based on his performance. He's been okay, but not that great. And so when you have a problematic person, and like I said, I think the New England Patriots was a little traumatized after they had to deal with that Aaron Hernandez situation. So that was probably PTSD. And based on some of the allegations that Stephon got hanging over top of him, they might see the same kind of pattern. It's also possible that they might know some things, and it's not just Aaron Hernandez. It was not Billy Check. What's the Kraft? He had his own little scandal going on over there. So they don't want no more scandals. So I can believe, yeah, they probably they like this, he's doing too much. But his performance wasn't all that wonderful during the season either. So they can, kind of justify his release outside of his legal troubles, right? But we have to look and see what Mila's receipts are going to say before we determine, was she really telling the truth? And was it that because certain evidence was not admissible, that we weren't able to see the whole picture of the entire situation? We were able to see the picture of an isolated situation, an isolated event, an isolated scenario. That judge kept a strict, her focus was, she had her lens zoomed in on this altercation. Don't talk about nothing else, because that's what we're here to talk about. And we don't care too much about the backstory. We don't want to hear all of that shit. We want you to tell us how this happened. And I think it was difficult for Mila. And until somebody is on the stand and really has to do this and really has had something like this happen, they probably don't know the type of pressure that she was under or what was going on, but trying to tell your story and being restricted and how you tell it can cause some discombobulation. You said, I know her. I tried to tell everyone to pay attention to these non-traditional celebrities are crossing over to our traditional industry where the backs. So that's who she had this live with, was Gorgeous Doll. So like I said, the only thing I know is that she used to be an ex of Futures and that she was a stripper previously, and now she's a social media influencer. But I don't know if she's appeared in any other reality show or none of that kind of stuff. I don't know about that. But Gorgeous Doll is the one who has this friendship with Mila, and she is willing to go out on the limb to help Mila release these receipts so that the court of public opinion can make a judgment. Because we think that's what we think the court of public opinion is the place to do this, right? That's what we think. We think that, and we think it's okay for it to happen prior to the trial, as long as it's happening in the direction of the individual that we favor. If the evidence and information is being presented to sway the court of public opinion in the direction that we favor, we're okay with it. But if the evidence is not being presented in the direction of the person that we favor, then we call that tainting. You see how things change? You see how the language changes? And so that's all I'm encouraging us to do on today. I'm encouraging us that to give Mila an opportunity, because she could not do it prior to the case going forward. She had to wait until the case was presented. It is possible that her attorneys may tell her that she still needs to wait because she still has a possibility at some vindication if she still wants to continue to go the civil route. Now, I don't know, because like I said, based on what was presented in court, we were told that there was some discrepancies in the invoice that she received, that there was some dishonesty about the monies that she was requesting, that she had submitted some duplicate receipts in situations, that she had submitted some receipts where she didn't even pay, and they determined that the account that Stefan's account actually paid for these goods and not Mila herself. This is what we were told in court. But Mila did not have an opportunity to defend herself in that situation, because since there is something civil pending or maybe coming down the pike, that is where she needed to reserve that testimony. And so we didn't get to see that. That is areas where I believe she probably wanted to plead the fifth in this trial, and where Mila thought that these things potentially weren't relevant. She thought they weren't relevant. Now, I saw where they were relevant to what was going on, but I also saw where maybe some of Mila's backstory about how this whole thing occurred might have been relevant too, and she wasn't able to tell that, right? And so right now, I am going to give Mila the benefit of the doubt. And I'm going to say, Mila, you were a terrible victim witness. Mila, you lied about a whole lot of things because you were trying to conceal the fact that you were involved in this intimate relationship with this man who was in a public relationship with another woman. Mila, you lied when you went to the court about why y'all really ended up getting into the altercation in the first place. Okay, some might believe that you got into this altercation with him over the money, but we see this argument start with him telling you can't go to Art Basel. You didn't say that when you went into give your statement to the police. There are lots of things that you omitted in your police statement that make me say you're not a credible witness. But I can now listen to you in a space where the pressure is not as great and give you an opportunity to lay out the case from beginning to end of without having to consider the rules of evidence, in order to determine, are you telling the truth in the court of public opinion? And so that is what I'm willing to do. And that's what I am encouraging everyone to do on today, is to give Mila the opportunity to present her case in the court of public opinion so we can determine, okay, Stephon won in the court of law. And there are some people who will say, well, so what? He won in the court of law. That's the final judgment. Okay. Well, then why don't you apply that on the other side of the scale? When it doesn't work out for the defendant in the court of law, then that's the court of law is final. That's the final judgment. You should be able to be fair and say the same thing on both sides if that is the case, right? You should also be able to be fair and say if there is new facts, evidence that comes out on the situation, that you are willing to weigh the weight of it to determine now, is there a reason that we should look at this again? Is it a situation that we should take another look at this again? And unfortunately, when that happens, and it happens on the side of the prosecution, they have to find a more creative way in order to bring it back, in order to be looked at, because they can't go back in the same direction, because then that might be a double jeopardy situation. So they have to become creative. And that is what they went to school for all of these years. And that is why the law is designed and created the way that it is, because it knows that sometimes criminals escape justice. Sometimes criminals get off because it is the way our justice system is set up. But it provides a remedy that those who are nuanced in the law, those who have went to school and spent a whole lot of years trying to figure out how do we get justice, whether it is on the side of the plaintiff or on the side of the defendant, and they are able to utilize those tools. And one side should not be overly criticized more than the other for how the tools are used and administered. And that's what fairness looks like. That's what fairness looks like. Mila, you said, I believe it happened. I'm willing to bet my dollar. But her actions after said assault is where she lost. Exactly. After the assault, how she conducted herself on the stand, the things that she left out, the fact that she deleted some messages because she didn't want to make herself look as bad when she should have just left the shit there. It was so many wrong missteps that she made. You said, I am on Stefan's side right now. Mila's attorneys couldn't have gotten those receipts in if they were relevant, reliable, and relatable. I want to listen to her, but she gives me voice vibes. Everybody has that right. And even if somebody, this is my thing. Even if you don't like somebody, there is some truth that is being told in the midst of not liking the person or having a bad vibe about them. It is some truth. There is some truth to some things that Roy said. Even when I don't like Royce's vibes, that still don't mean I like Dwight Howard's either. And whereas I don't believe everything that Roy says, there are some factual things and that now are playing themselves out even with the other women in his life, a pattern of behavior. That's the thing with these men. A lot of times with the women, you get to really only see because these men are the dominant in their life. And so you're looking at their behavior with this dominant man in their life. But these men, they have a pattern of behavior that we can observe across several women and sometimes men that establishes their character for us. So even if there are things that I don't particularly like about Royce either, but there are things that she stated that are true. And I'm not on anybody's side when it comes to Stephon or Mila. Like I said, it's of no consequence to me. I happen to think both of them are lying about certain things. That's why it would be a not guilty on this case for me when it comes to the Stephon situation. There is a crucial piece that was left out of creating a timeline. And Angie, you the one about the timelines now. You the one with the timelines. And to me, I feel like you have to ask yourself this question because they are the ones who presented it. They are the ones who gave us the timeline. The defense did, not the prosecution. The defense gave us a timeline for the day. They left out a gap in the timeline. And to me, maybe I would have felt more so like Stephon was telling the truth if there was no case put on and no witnesses called on his behalf at all. Because then I would not have had this timeline that left ambiguity. But there is a hole in the timeline. Why show us a video of Stephon Diggs leaving the house that morning at, I think they said like somewhere between 9 and 10 a.m. that he left the house? You show us a video of that. And then the next thing that we get in the timeline, with the hydration therapist. The alleged event happened somewhere between 3 and 3:30. That is what we got from the prosecution. We didn't get a timeline from the prosecution of what both parties were doing during the day. But the defense gave us a timeline and they left a gap in the timeline. We don't know what time Stephon returned back to the property. All we know is he left out somewhere between 9 and 10 that morning, and then he had an appointment at the home with the hydration therapist at 4:50, and then with the masseuse right after, immediately after. By that time, Mila was gone, right? By the time the masseuse got done, from what we were left to understand, from what we were left to assume, right? And then furthermore, what even looks even more strange to me, which I don't think that they counted on that Shy was going to testify to, because it seemed like the defense was a little bit shocked when Shy said this part. So when they asked Shy the next time she saw Mila after Mila left her house, Shy says the next time she saw Mila was at Stephon's house, around the time of Mila filing this police report against Stephon. Well, that's not something that the shock, it was a kind of a shock. You could tell that the lawyer, the defense lawyer, was kind of like, oh, you saw when? Like, at where? Right? Like, because I had assumed that once she left and went to Shy's, that after she went to Shy's and then she went back to file the police report, that she went back to wherever she came from before she ever came to stay with Stephon. But apparently she came back, and she came back after that altercation, after the text message altercation, where Stephon told her to go get somebody and prove that he pussy and make whoever that is, make him pay the money. And she said, bet. Well, at that point, you wouldn't have been back in my house. And like I said, and that is those messages, and the fact that the defense left that gap in their timeline that they created is what makes me say something happened. I do think that there is a strong possibility that some altercation happened. Who was the aggressor? I don't know. I don't know if it was him or her, because according to what has been stated and has been heard, and what has been seen, and other allegations that have been made against him in the court of public opinion, because that's where we say, you get to influence, you get to sway. I'm not going to change the terminology just because it's one side or the other. I'm not going to say they taint it when it's one side and then they sway when it's the other side. I want to keep my language consistent. So since we get to sway in the court of public opinion, I'm more so inclined to say I think both of them have the potential to be violent. Where that comes from, I don't know. That's a whole nother backstory. But I think that I see in the both of them where they had the potential to be the aggressor. And so I don't know if maybe Stephon put Mila in the chokehold because maybe she swung at him, hit him, did something, and then he was trying to restrain her. I don't know if he did it because he was mad and pissed off about that text when she said bet. And he thought that, oh, you threatening me? You gonna bring somebody to try to force me? He the one who suggested it, but she responded and said bet. And when she said bet, that would have motivated me to go up in that room and say, you got to get up out my house. Like, you got to be gone, shorty. Like, I would have did that. So that's why I don't discount that it happened. And the real reason I don't discount that it happened is because of the defense's timeline, leaving the gap. That is why I say, you said, I believe some things that Mila said. Timelines are crucial. If the defense left holes in the timeline, well, maybe the prosecutors just did a horrible job. Exactly. That's what I don't know. I don't know all the way, but they left a hole in that timeline. they didn't show. The defense purposefully shows. Why when you watch and you listen to all of the testimony, the defense, they put Sonny on the stand. Sonny shows that her and Stefan leave the house at the same time. So she's there to testify that she knows this is the time he left the house. But then Sonny don't testify to, well, when did he come back? The next thing they ask Sonny is, what did he have lined up for the day? And he had lined up an appointment that the hydration therapist was coming to the house to give him an IV treatment, and that he was going to get a massage. What time did that happen? 4:50 and 5:45. Those two individuals came and testified that they did that at those times. But what time did Stefan return to the house? Where is the video? Where is the footage in the video that shows Stefan returning to the house after 3:30, closer to 4 o'clock? So we can say he wasn't even there. How are you saying that this whole thing occurred and he wasn't even at the house? They gave us the theory to make us look at it and say, where did he have time? He left the house, and then where did he have time to do this in that time? But it was some ambiguity around the time that was given. That is all I'm saying. And that doesn't give us any details as to what even happened in the altercation. And that's why I'm saying, that's why there is reasonable doubt. That is why it's a not guilty for me, whether he put a case on or not. But the reasoning behind why it would be a not guilty for me changed based on the case that he presented in his defense. Initially, it would have my not guilty would have been that she was a horrible witness. I would have only put emphasis on the things that I felt like she lacked in her testimony. Things I felt like the prosecution failed to present. But when he puts on the defense and he provides a timeline and there's some information given, then I'm weighing all of that too. And my reasoning for coming to the not guilty slightly is combined with a mixture of things, because now I'm not saying I believe him either. I think both of them are lying. Both of them are lying. I think he's lying, saying that nothing occurred that day, that there was no altercation. Those text messages would suggest that any person with natural instincts would want a person out of their house after I tell them to go get somebody to make me do something, and that person's response is bad. I want you out my house. So the natural response is, now I'm coming in that room and I'm letting you know you got to go now. Not later, now. It went from, I don't want nobody in my house this weekend, to now you need to go now. And now it ain't just a weekend, now it's permanent. Right? That's a natural reaction. You said the thing that shocks me is SD is sleeping with all these women and they seemingly know about each other while he is in public relation with Cardi B. Listen, Miller. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it all boils down to. But this is the thing, Miller. I give weight to all parties. I'm not going to sit here and I don't care. Some people say, well, he's telling them the truth. So what? That's still not like, that's not no way to be conducting yourself. That's not no way to be doing these women. It is not okay to mistreat somebody because the person is okay with the mistreatment. And in this world, we have made that okay. We have justified the person who is mistreating a person by saying, oh, well, the person is okay with the mistreatment. And then once the person is no longer okay with the mistreatment and then wants to come forward and say, I'm no longer okay with it, then we still defend the person who did the mistreating and then bash the person coming out finally saying, I don't want to be mistreated like this no more. So to me, the thing would be is that we not promote that people be mistreated, period. That would be the idea to me. This is the thing. Obviously, and I know a lot of people talk about Cardi B's sexuality because she has said that she's bisexual. I don't know if that is something that she still is to this day. I don't know if that was something that she went through at one phase in her life. I don't know what this current status is of that situation. But just because she's bisexual doesn't mean that she's willfully consenting to all of these situations that he is involved in. And apparently there is some level of surprise and shock when she's finding out about some of this. So some of this stuff is still happening behind her back. You said, Angie, you said, did the prosecution put on an expert to explain her behavior after these all cases? No, no. All they had was her and the and I think it was two law enforcement in persons that went on the stand. I know for sure it was at least one, but I think it was two law enforcement individuals that went on the stand, because I think I remember them seeing three people go up there and then they rushed their case. But maybe I'm wrong, because maybe I was overlapping and listening to some overlap, because some of the testimony did sound the same from both law enforcement people, if it was two of them. Now, but that was all they put on the stand. But what is being said on Gorgeous Dog Live is that there were more people who were supposed to come testify on Mila's behalf, but they did not show up. They did not show up. So you got to ask yourself the question, because like I said, people do it. You know, people say that people tamper with witnesses and force them to come testify, and they coerced them to testify, manipulated them, and they did all of these things to make a witness testify when it's the prosecution. Well, did the defense do something? Did the defense do something to keep those people who were going to come and testify on the behalf of Mila from coming to testify? Or was there some real reason why those people couldn't testify? Was it because it was not relevant, relatable, and reliable, like you say, Angie, to the case? So then do we have to respect that? And the thing is that if you respect it on one side, you respect it all the time. And that's all I'm saying. Because at the end of the day, these things are of no consequence to us in the end when all of these people are participating in this bad activity. None of these people participated in this activity alone. They all participated in it together. So how the outcome happens, it is of no consequence to none of us. Of none of us, because we weren't the participants in the activity. This is activity that they all participated in together. And they participated in this bad activity with a certain level of trust, I guess. They underestimated. They gave too much trust to certain people in certain situations. And then this is how they end up in these fiascos, this whole crap of a situation. It's a situation of their own making. And then to infuse God in trying to help someone out of that situation of their own making, they made the bed. When you make the bed, you lay in it. He's laying in it when he's getting fellatio and getting hopped up and down on and all of that. That's the pleasure of it. Well, here comes the pain. With pleasure comes pain. And until they realize that and get some control of their urge to feed into always wanting to be pleasured and get some discipline, because we don't promote them to have that discipline. We make it okay because we feel like if the individuals involved are okay with being part of the circus, then oh well, they going with it. So we fine with this person being a womanizer. Let them go on ahead and continue womanizing. Then when the womanizer gets held into account for their womanizing ways, then you got a whole defense for that. Well, no, don't defend none of it. Let it all, what don't come out in the wash is going to come out in the rinse. That is the reality. And that's how I look at it. Now, I know some people, they got other opinions, but that's how I see it. You said, preach. I don't understand why people make mistreatment normal just because of it. Right, exactly. It seems as if the prosecutor didn't do a good job on both. Right, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if this is the thing. Angie would have had a whole lot of hurdles to overcome. Because why did you put on that report that you had some bruising? Well, this is the thing, and this is how I feel. She was lying. She exaggerated that, probably to try to make the situation seem worse. She may have went in there thinking, if I don't say that, they might not think that it was serious. And so that might have been part of her lying about that. And I'm not saying it's okay. I ain't making no justification. I'm giving an explanation as to how that happens. And because the thing is that anybody who has ever in their life had to go file an ex parte order on someone. Let me tell y'all something, y'all. One time I had to go, I called myself thinking I was about to go file an ex parte order on somebody, right? And so I only been in one situation where with one nigga did I had to ever do this in my life. And I never again, never, it was never no again. But there was a lot of mutual back and forth with me and that person, and that's a person I was married to. But I've never been in no other situation like this ever. Right? But I was trying to file an ex parte order on him one time because I had to go out of town for business. And I was moving out, and I did not want him to, listen, I'm honest. I did not want him to take my kids because he would do that. You know, he did, because he know the law. So he know neither one of us got custody of the kids. So I can go take the kids while you're not there, and ain't nothing you could do, right? So I did not want him to do that. So I called myself going down to the court. I'm gonna file an ex parte order on him, right? So that I'm gonna see if I could get the judge to like give like some type of temporary thing till I get back out of town, and then that way I'm good, right? So I go down to the court in order for me to file, and you know how they give you that little temporary one because you just write a brief synopsis and they'll give you that little temporary one. Well, we had to the day we had to go into the court about it, right? Look. That judge asked me, well, did he do this? Did he do this? Did he do this? No, 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 no. Did he make any threats? No, no, no. It was no threats. There was nothing that could get me that order. And let me tell you something. That judge didn't kick me out her court, though. She kicked him out the court because of the way he was acting in the court. And when he left out the court, that judge said, look, I'm not supposed to do this. But she gave me some instructions that was food for the soul, okay? When he left up out of there. Because the law didn't allow her to do what I was asking her to do. But she could tell by the way he was conducting himself, by the information that was given to her, that this is a motherfucker to deal with here. This is a motherfucker to deal with, okay? And so she was like, I am not supposed to give you no advice. I can only give you some suggestions. And she gave me some suggestions on what I needed to do in certain situations. And I took her advice. I took her advice in the situation. But yeah, you can't, if you go in there, they will sometimes tell you when you're attempting to get like fill out an application. They will ask you did he do this? Did he do this? Did he do this? I know at certain places, depending on where you go, you got to go to a counter to fill out this whole thing before they will even take you back there to see you, before the constable or the judge or whatever will see you to determine if you get the temporary order. And if you don't say like certain things happen, then they won't even issue that kind of thing. So it's possible that because Mila was in a domestic violence situation previously, she was trying to say this on the stand, that she had been involved in a domestic violence situation in her past relationship. It might be some things that she did lie about when she went in to give that statement, because she may have been made to believe that nobody would take her serious if she didn't say certain things. And I don't agree with no lie at all. But sometimes those are the things that influence people to say a little bit more or make something a little bit more than what it is. Because sometimes people feel like if you don't have no marks, if you don't have no physical evidence, no nothing, ain't nothing happened to you, girl. Go on, get out of here. Go on and get out of here. And that might be what was in the back of her mind. And it's possible that when she was going into the explanation debate to try to talk about in her past experience that the judge cut her off from, maybe she was going to explain why she told those lies, why she didn't say that. You know? What you say, Angie? You said, yeah, and victims will exaggerate altercations to get a TP. Oh, right, exactly. And that's why I was throwing cans and cups. He had my Right. I mean, shoot, like I said, people can be a son of a bitch, to deal with. And so you got to figure out something out. You got to figure out, and especially when you're dealing with one who know the daggone law, they will really, really try your nerves. They will really try your ass. So I don't know. It's not no excuse for her lying. She shouldn't have went in there and told no lie. But sometimes the system, and when you have had an experience with the system before, and you've gone to report something happening to you, and then they deny you because they feel like that's not enough. And if you feel like, okay, well, my safety was violated, or I'm making this report, because to me, it seemed like Mila was making that report to try to get her money, y'all. Now, what she thinks her money was and what Stefan and his accountant think her money was, there is some discrepancy, right? That is to be dealt with in the civil matter. That was not adjudicated in that criminal court. That is to be dealt with in the civil matter of what really happened with these numbers. But originally, I think the invoice that was submitted was, at some point, there was an invoice submitted for $19,000. So how it got from 19,000 to him offering 100,000, according to her, to then she wanting 5.5 million. We don't know all of that. What happened in between all of that, right? But like I said, that's something that it's left to be seen. And so, like I said, when you have different experiences, or people, or you've been assistant to someone else who has had different experiences with things, you kind of understand processes a little more, and you might understand the missteps of people in trying to deal with a situation more than if you've never had to deal with those systems in that way. And so what I'm saying is that she's dead wrong. You should never tell no lie to try to get anything. At the same time, it needs to be known that in certain states, in certain districts and localities, that the burden of proof to determine whether or not you are able to get a temporary order on a person sometimes is more strict than in other places. And then that could end up influencing how people go report things in the future. And it's not a good thing. I understand why sometimes it's strict. I understand the need for that. But I also understand that sometimes that strictness has led to a lot of deaths. It has led to a lot of deaths of people because they are not taking these assaults as serious, and because they got to meet these certain thresholds in order to get things in place. Then this is how the perpetrator, continues it, and then next thing you know, something fatal happens. And that fatality could be on either side. It could be that the individual who is being the victim, who's saying they're the victim, could end up taking the law into their own hands because they feel like the law is not protecting them. Or it could be the person that is being called the perpetrator ends up taking the life of the victim. It works both ways. So, because I had some personal experience, I had some professional experience, I have some experience because there are things I've assisted a lot of other people in doing and trying to get. I understand when sometimes these women will say more. It is because they know that they are dealing in a district, a locality, where they have to meet a certain threshold to get the order. And whereas this individual might not have crossed that threshold, they know that it was close to capable of that threshold being crossed. They know a lot of times these women that are dealing with domestic violence, they know that if they don't do something to try to calm down the situation, that the situation would have escalated to something way more threatening. You have a lot of situations where the woman does something to try to bring down the temperature so that it doesn't escalate to cross the threshold. So it's something that we need to try to figure out, and it's hard to figure out because you want to protect people from false accusations. You want to protect people from false accusations, but you want to protect people being harmed too. And trying to find that space where you're able to do is difficult. This is what the difficulty is in the law. And the difficulty is that both sides can find loopholes in it equally. Not one side more than the other. And so this is the difficult place that we live in. This is the world we live, and this is why you should just treat people right. You should just treat people accordingly. You should just not do things to offend people, even if you feel like you have a willing participant. Because when you do, then we have to try to figure out. You leave it for us to try to figure out, because then something happens. And this is when you get all of these people try having to create these judgments and trying to figure out all of these things that occurred, because then now, we don't know what's what. We don't know who did what. We don't know what happened with what. And that's what our system, our criminal justice system allows that. It allows us to be participants. Our criminal justice system allows us to be participants in the scales of justice. And so that's what ends up happening. So now let's move. Let's move to the next topic, y'all. Jarvis butts, y'all. Some more calls been released about Jarvis butts. And he got his tail up on that phone. So, okay, the first set of calls is with Kimberly. Now, I didn't call Kimberly hotline bling. Three-way Kimberly. She's the three-way caller, right? She's the three-way caller. She's the one that Jarvis tells to put the phone down for 10 minutes while he talked to his baby mama and then pick the phone back up. And he has to have her do this because for some reason, none of his baby mamas, or at least most of them, because Kimberly didn't call most of them, child. None of his baby mamas know how to put the money on the phone, right? They don't know how to do the family and friends account right. They don't comprehend how to do none of that right. Now, side note, let me say this. I don't think that some of them is having difficulty knowing how to do it. Shannon might have been having difficulty. Nazaya's aunt, she might have been having some difficulty not knowing how to do it. But Angel, I don't think Angel had no intentions on putting no shit on there for that nigga. I think Angel from day one says, I was done. He went to that jail. I'm done. I am done. I am done. And she had no intentions on putting nothing on that commissary. She had no intentions on putting no money on that phone. She didn't have no intentions on putting nothing on nothing. I think that when this nigga called her and was using somebody else to call her, that's why she wasn't answering that phone. Now, yeah, we know at some point she wasn't answering the phone because her phones got took because of Jarvis's crime. But even prior to that, she wasn't answering the phone sometimes. And so I think Angel had no intention on getting nothing right about that phone because she did not want to talk to Jarvis. She did not need to talk to Jarvis. She ain't feel like her kids needed to talk to Jarvis. That little boy, when he got on that phone and asked his daddy, Daddy, what is this them talking about? They took our phones and said that you kidnapped a little girl. He don't sound like he wanted to talk to Jarvis. Matter of fact, when he went to go address Jarvis, he didn't say Daddy, he said Jarvis. At first, I thought the little boy's name was Jarvis because when I first heard him say that, I said, oh, well, maybe that was somebody else calling him, telling Jarvis to come in. Maybe the little boy named Jarvis. No, the little boy called the daddy Jarvis. He said, Jarvis, what is going on? Why our phones got took? Our house is a mess. What are they talking about when they say you kidnapped a little girl? So Angel and her kids, they sound like they was fed up with Jarvis. And I don't blame them because it seemed like they was the ones dealing with Jarvis for the longest time. These other women, they seem like, based on some of the testimony, it sounded like some of them came into the picture around 2019. So I'm wondering if he got out of jail like around that time for those first set of charges or something, or if he had been back and forth in jail. But some of these other women, it seemed like they entered the picture in 2019, right? And so I know Tashi was 2019. Scared me. The I had got a call. Sorry. So in Latricia was 2019, and the reason, hey, Just B, how you doing, boo? So Latricia and and Tashi, they testified. They are the two that testified in the case. I went back to go look at the preliminary hearing so I could get some context. You said it be your innocent voice. He cracked me up. Listen, I didn't talk like that my whole life, and I smiled my whole life. Like anybody who know me, they be like, we don't even know if we ever seen her not smiling. Even in a bad situation, she is smiling. So like I don't. It's just that's just I don't know. That's just how I am. But so Tachi or Tashi, she says Tashi when she's testifying on the stand. But you're hearing some of these people say Tachi or and then King said something about a Tasha. Now I don't know if Tasha is a different person that's a baby mama, and then Tashi is the fiance. So Tashi is the fiance, and Latricia is the mother. Right, Latricia is the one with the 2-year-old. Yes, just be, and she is the one who testified on the stand. Um, um, Tash Tashi is the fiance. That's the fiance. Yeah. And then I don't know if that's how it's spelled. You might know the spelling right, but I know on the stand she said her name was Tashi. But you hear in some of these calls it being said Tachi. So I don't, maybe it's spelled with CHI and that's why people are pronouncing it that way. But when I heard her say it in the preliminary hearing, she said Tashi. So you got in this new batch of calls, you got Kimberly, you got Hotline Bling Kimberly, three-way Kimberly, and then the batch of calls after that, you got Latricia, the 2-year-old's mom, the one that testified on the stand, the one who car he tore up. Latricia is the one who car he tore up. Okay? You said I thought the 2-year-old was a boy. That was a part. I'm not sure if it's a boy or girl. It was sounding to me like it was a girl because I thought on the phone I heard Jarvis saying to Latricia, "Where is she at?" The child name is Amari or something, I think. And I thought I heard him saying, "Where is she at?" But okay. So Latricia has a boy, but the boy is not Jarvis' child. But you said I'm sure there is a Tasha, Tashi, Shawana, Jawana, Keisha, Taki. Yeah, all of them. He got all the names. He's worse than DMX, LL Cool J combined. Okay, with them names, running them names off. I mean, it is ridiculous. So, three-way Kimberly makes her exit in this batch of calls. Okay. Because three-way Kimberly did not put that phone down on some of them calls. Okay? Apparently it's a girl. But when she said her son found the glasses, I thought that right, okay, yeah. So her son is not his. Yeah, she has a son. Her son is not his child, but the little girl is his, right? So let's deal with three-way Kimberly though first, because that was the first calls released yesterday. So three-way Kimberly, Jarvis told her, you call this number, bitch, put the phone down and don't pick the phone back up for 10 minutes or don't put the phone down for 15 minutes. I mean, put it down for 15 minutes and then pick it back up. Sometimes three-way Kimberly don't follow the instructions. Sometimes Kimberly don't put their phone down. And I think that she got a little bit confused because when she would follow Jarvis' instructions, he would then kind of like get an attitude because when he would be saying hello, 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 and she didn't answer, he would hang up and then call back and then be like, where was you at? So maybe three-way Kimberly felt like she had to stay on the phone. She was confused about the instructions because 1 minute he'd say put the phone down for 10 minutes, or put the phone down for 15 minutes. Then when he was done, if the phone call ended before that time, then he's on there, hello, 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 hanging up and then calling back. And then he's wondering, well, where was you at? Well, what happened? Where was you at? So Hotline Bling, 3-1 Kimberly was confused and was like, let me just stay on this phone because I don't know what this nigga want. I don't know if he want me to stay on the phone. I don't know if he want me to put it down, but he seems to get an attitude when he be calling my name and I don't say anything, right? So she decided she was going to stay on a couple of them calls and listen. Well, she stays and listens and ear hustles on that call that is between Jarvis and Shannon. You said I don't think there are any more calls. I want to hear Takesha finally knowing for sure what he is. You said it's crazy. He thought he had so much control that she never woke up. Exactly, but no, there are more. So what? Behind the walls, Annabelle, what she said is she has calls through August. There are no more calls with Kimberly. There are no more calls with Kimberly. Kimberly exits. Kimberly exited before Kizzy. Remember, we thought Kizzy was going to be the first exit? No, it seemed like Kimberly, three-way Kimberly exits before Kizzy. Okay? So, she stays behind. And she ear hustles on a call between Jarvis and Shannon. And Jarvis is pressing Shannon and about Angel and Tashi's house being raided, right? There was a search warrant issued for him, and then they came to their house. And so he's interrogating Shannon again. And Shannon is telling him, look, this is all that the law enforcement people told me. Yeah, all these women, right, all of them, they all are brainwashed. And for a broke nigga, and this is what we've been saying, like everybody keep trying to say, oh, these women be doing these things because they want to be with the celebrity and they want to live the life. And all. Well, how do you explain this? How do you explain the fact that you have this man who is living off of all of these various women that he has nothing to contribute to none of them? These women are doing the same thing. So surely it has to let you know that it is something more than just women being willing to do this type of thing just for money. It ain't just about that. It ain't just women willing to go through this type of humiliation for money. You have these women that we are seeing go through this humiliation for this broke nigga that keep going to jail, and it is a child molester. So you said Kizzy said she doesn't send him money. Kizzy lying because Kizzy is lying because that's what she told the detective because she felt like the detective was being nosy. Remember, Kizzy was mad at that detective. She wanted to fight that detective. Okay. She didn't know why she was down there. Her damn child wasn't missing. This don't got nothing to do with her. She didn't care about none of that. All she cared about this nigga coming home and cuddling up with her for the winter weather. That's what she cared about. Okay? She didn't care about that he was accused or none of that. We thought that Kizzy was going to be the first one to break away, but it was not Kizzy. It was Hotline Bling three-way Kimberly. Okay? And Kimberly, you said, but Jarvis told Kizzy I ain't never asked. And he was lying. Cause then in the next thing, he said something about he got some care package she sent. So whether you're actually giving him actual money or you're actually ordering the care package and paying your money, you're still sending him shit. When the detective asked her, when she said, well, we go to concerts and this, that, and other, the detective said, well, who paid for the concert tickets? She said, me. It don't matter. You don't got to put the cash in the nigga pocket. You still paying for the shit. Jarvis line, Kizzy line, okay? And Kizzy don't give a damn about no child missing. She don't give a rat's ass about none of that. She just cares about, not Kimberly, I'm sorry, Kizzy. Kizzy only cares about this nigga coming home August, September, so that by the time the cold weather come in October and November, that maybe he'll cuddle with her. Because obviously he didn't cuddle with her in the past. And maybe that had something to do with the state private part allegation that her baby daddy made against her, which that was TMI. I do not even know why on no jail call you even. I guess you never think your jail call is going to get played. But when she said that her baby daddy said to her, she basically, Kizzy was saying that the baby daddy treated her bad when he was with her. And now that she got somebody else, now it's all hey beautiful and all this stuff. And she was like, you wasn't saying that when none of that when we was together. And she started running off a list of negative stuff that the baby daddy said about her. And one of them involved her having a smelly private part. Right? Right. Yes, Josephine. When you heard Kizzy say she was excited about a bodysuit because she's always been a big girl, I was like, I should not be able to guess what she look like. Exactly. Exactly. Somewhere between Tachi, Shannon, and Latricia is Kizzy. Okay? Somewhere in between. She gave us a visual. Matter of fact, when I picture her, I picture some combination of those three women. Particularly Shannon when her and Marquita was in metallic dresses. Like that's what I envisioned, right? You said that's the game. Um, make a woman think other people are just hating because she have a man who exactly when he told her that and said something about having a good thing going, you got a good thing going on and all, and that's why they be hating. And I'm like, what world is what universe is this that Jarvis lives in? This is not the Marvel universe. This is not the DC comic universe. What universe are you living in that you think that anybody is jealous of this situation other than the other women who was involved with this man and obviously was jealous because they was more concerned about each other than they were a missing child? Like ghetto as hell. Ghetto and wide body wrangle built women. This is ridiculous, right? Ghetto as hell. This is like the worst shit. Oh my God. This is any celebrity story or steroids. I don't think, see, people don't want to believe that regular men got this shit going on. They want that because they want to keep trying to play to that theory that women do this stuff for celebrity men because they want money. They gold diggers and they want money. Well, how do you explain this regular nigga that don't make no money going in and out of jail, got all of these? How do you explain that? You don't want to. You don't want to see it. You don't want to talk about it because to talk about it means that then you have to go away from your theory that this kind of stuff only happens with men who got money and influence and somebody trying to get it. You would have to then provide some kind of conversation around that. You said they should have been arrested. What happens exactly, Josephine. It's the pretty hair on his head. So I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, Angie. Because this is the thing. I could have found a better pretty head nigga than that. Like, I mean, Jarvis is all the way at the bottom of the barrel. All the way at the bottom. Like, you could have still, not that, you cannot throw that kind of charm. He ain't had that kind of charm. He talks to them like he a pimp. Like he is their pimp. That's how he talks to them. He be talking all nice till he feel like they done got a little bit out of line. And mind you, they ain't getting out of line. They are questioning you about what you're being accused of. And then that's when you know, then here come the pimp talk. Here come the pimp talk. You said, we are supposed to be like men with money, but abuse is a right. You say he's not pretty. Uncle John in Florida case was pretty, right? Right, Josephine. I mean, this is just ridiculous, right? So Kimberly stayed on that phone and ear hustled in this conversation that Jarvis and Shannon are having. And Jarvis is interrogating Shannon. And Shannon is getting pissed with the interrogation. And Shannon finally tells Jarvis, listen, I'm sorry that this is happening. If you saying you didn't have nothing to do with this, I'm sorry that they are going to do this. She said, but all I'm concerned about is finding my niece. And so if that means that they got to run up in their house and they don't understand that, I'm sorry, but I don't care. I don't care. And then she starts going off and she mentions Tashi being the fiance. She mentions Tashi being the fiance in the call that three-way Kimberly is ear hustling on, right? This was on Valentine's Day, if I'm not mistaken. It was either on Valentine's Day or on the 15th, the day after. So, Kimberly hears this. So after the phone hangs up, Jarvis has called Kimberly back. And they are having a conversation, and he's trying to make conversation with Kimberly. And I think the reason he's trying to make conversation, because y'all know, we don't never hear him making no conversation with Kimberly. All Kimberly was to do was to call other people. So he's trying to make conversation with Kimberly. And I think the reason why he's trying to make conversation with Kimberly is because two things happened on that call with Shannon. Shannon mentions Tashi being the fiance, and Shannon and Janiyah get on the phone. And Shannon lets Jarvis know that they question Janiyah. Janiyah is real soft and timid. Now, we know he's done the same shit to Janiyah that he's done to Naziah, right? So now you could tell kind of in a way, Jarvis really ready to shit bricks now that he know that they didn't talk to Janiyah. Because, okay, what did Janiyah tell them? Because I'm her daddy, and she might have been lying for me all this time, but her cousin is close. And he knows how close. Because he even had them children engaging and shit with each other. Okay? So they are the real keepers of each other's secrets. And now that Naziah is missing, Jarvis don't know if Janiyah is going to hold up. He don't know. He don't know if she's going to hold up and hold him down like the rest of these women was holding him down. No, not knowing your daughter ain't supposed to hold your ass down, you nasty fuck. You fucking pervert. Like, what the type of bullshit is this? So Janiyah is on the phone, and at the end of the call, now Jarvis doesn't do this when three-way Kimberly is on the phone. He doesn't tell everybody he loves them, and when he comes home, he's gonna do right and be with them and all of that. He don't do that when he's on the call with three-way Kimberly. He just hangs up. And he tries to hurry up and hang up, and he tries to distract, and I'm gonna call you later, call me later, put the money on the phone. And he tries to distract because he doesn't want none of that to be said. Because just in case three-way Kimberly is ear hustling, right? So on this call though, at the end, Shannon and Janiyah both tell Jarvis they love him at the end. So now you got Tashi being the fiance mentioned in the call. Janiyah tells him she loves him. It's nothing wrong with that. That's the daughter. But if Kimberly only knew at the time what he was doing with the daughter, I'm pretty sure that would have been the last conversation Kimberly had with him, right? Because even though we thought Kimberly was crazy, it seemed like Kimberly had some more sense than the other ones. Like I said, Kimberly is the first to go, okay? I told y'all, Kimberly was getting that whole story for some reason. She was doing all of that for some reason. She was trying to get some information. Okay? That's what we gonna go with. We gonna go with that now. Because now that we know that Kimberly exit before Kizzy, we gonna say Kimberly was smarter than Kizzy. Okay? So, shut up, Angie. Talk about you screaming. So, Kimberly questions Jarvis about the fiance comment. Y'all, Jarvis went off. He went off about Shannon. That's why I don't fuck with that bitch. And I'm saying it just like how he was saying to y'all. That's why I don't fuck with that bitch. She's so fucking dumb. She's so stupid. Always just saying something, living in the past. That ain't none of my fiance. She keep on saying that because once upon a time that was the case, but that ain't none of my fiance. And she just keep on saying that dumb shit. And so then Kimberly, he can tell Kimberly ain't buying. So then he kind of gets agitated with Kimberly, and then he recognizes the attitude on Kimberly, but he know Kimberly is his three-way connect. He cannot really mess up the three-way connect, especially right now while everybody's house getting busted up in. Everybody's being questioned. He still needs three-way Kimberly a little bit more, so he can investigate and find out what's going on. Because he don't got nobody like three-way Kimberly. So far, we haven't heard nobody else making the three-way calls. We've only heard her. So he can't go to this. He's like, well, I guess I'll talk to you later. He do that little soft voice he do, and I'll talk to you later. So then the next thing that happens, we know we hear the phone calls with him when he has her call Angel. Angel is the one whose house got raided. She's the one whose child asked about what is you doing about kidnapping kids. And Kimberly is privy to that call as well. Okay. So then Angel ends up texting Kimberly and telling Kimberly, look, don't call me for Jarvis no more. I know this you. I know you doing it. I know who you are. She sends Kimberly a picture of her and Jarvis from Kimberly's Facebook. And she says, I know who you are. Don't call me no more. I don't want to hear nothing from this nigga ever again. Good luck and good riddance. That's what Angel does, right? So really, Angel is the first exit. But I don't count her because Angel had so many kids with Jarvis and was with him for so many years. It was about time that she exited. That's why I don't count her amongst the other ones, right? It was about time. And it seemed like she was on her way to an exit even before the revelation came about Naziah, right? So she did not want to put no money on that phone. So I didn't count her. That's why I count Kimberly as the first exit. So Angel gets that message. And then from there, I guess it was some more stuff to that message that she let Kimberly know. Angel let Kimberly know at the time that Jarvis was locked up that he was living with her. And then I'm pretty sure that Kimberly probably got some visit from somebody too. We just don't know yet. I'm pretty sure law enforcement visited her and maybe the detective told her some things, but we don't know if law enforcement did it or it was her baby daddies, because Kimberly sends a message to Jarvis by text telling him what her baby daddies then told her about Jarvis. Baby, Jarvis calls Kimberly on that phone and he is hot. And he tells her he don't want to hear shit from about her lame ass baby daddies. They ain't worth a damn. They ain't nothing but some punks. And he is just giving all of this rundown on the baby daddies. And Kimberly's like, I don't care about none of that. She's like, you doing all of that for you being caught in a lie? This what you doing? You doing all of this because you was caught in a lie. So then Kimberly starts to try to make the main topic, and that's Jarvis and his lies. And she brings out the thing about him having this baby with Shannon. He denies that, say that baby is not his. The last one, she brings out the fiance. She brings out the fact that supposedly she held some baby that supposedly was his. Now I don't know if that was Shannon's baby or Latricia's baby, or some other baby that we still don't know about yet. But we know that Kimberly is alleging that she done held some baby, and she's asking Jarvis, well, was that your baby? Because obviously, just like Jarvis lied to his sister and said that Naziah was King's niece, he must have lied to Kimberly and told him that baby that he had around her was somebody else's baby. I don't know, because she was questioning, well, that was your baby that you had me holding? Jarvis act like he don't know what baby she talking about. So Kimberly said, okay, well, I'm going to let you keep on thinking you don't know what baby I'm talking about. So, like I said, they go get into a whole blow-up argument. They have a few more calls. On the last call with Jarvis and Kimberly, Jarvis' sister had gotten contact with Kimberly. And she got in contact with Kimberly because Angel gave the number to Jarvis' sister. Gave Kimberly's number to Jarvis' sister. And Jarvis' sister wanted to check in with Kimberly about what's going on with Jarvis, because she's like, I haven't heard nothing from him. Now, we know by now, Jarvis' sister didn't talk to them people. about what she witnessed that day in that shop, and Jarvis being with the last person with Nasiah, right? And hey, Tears, you said we need Angel's son on the David case. He gets exactly, just me. She was unpaid switch, exactly unpaid, right? Underappreciated. So she Jarvis' sister probably was what Angel gave the number. Because more than likely, what I'm thinking probably happened was it seems like Angel, the first baby mama, and Jarvis' sister have a great relationship with one another. So Jarvis' sister probably was trying to get Jarvis to call her. And Angel more than likely told Jarvis' sister, I don't talk to that nigga no more after all of this stuff happened. Listen, he had this girl Kimberly calling me here. Here go Kimberly number. Call Kimberly. Right? Because that's how I would have said it. Now, I don't know if that's how they said it, but that's how I would have said it, right? Jesse, you said, I don't understand wanting to date a man with 10 kids. 10 because that's what he told her. You can have Nick can 12. So he told some people 10. He told Latricia 12, I think. So we don't know how many kids Jarvis got. When Toot was doing her live, one of the kids, when Toot was doing her live with Jarvis' sister on there, and Jarvis' sister made a call out for any kids that might be Jarvis to get in contact with the family, it was a child on there that said that they was Jarvis. So we don't know where Jarvis is. They all over the goddamn place. Like, just scattered abroad, right? So so the sister, Jarvis' sister, Tijuana, ends up contacting Kimberly. And Kimberly tells Jarvis. And from that point on, Jarvis and Kimberly don't have no more conversation. It's over with. It's over. They don't talk no more. Or at least not up to August. Because behind the wall, Anna B, she only has up to August of 2024. She put in a new request for the rest of 2025 and 2026. But right now, all she has is up to of August of 2025. I'm sorry. Am I saying it right, y'all? Well, she said up to August. I don't know if it's August 24 or August 25, but she said that she's put in a new request to get the 25 and 26 stuff, right? Um, you said, ain't no abroad. I damn sure ain't got his baby. Hell no. Shut up, just be. Listen, you was ready to call the jail now. You was ready to call that jail. You was gonna be on what the fuck is that show? Did we watch Locked Up, Love After Lockup? You went so because you told me you was trying to find out where Nasiah was at. Miller, you said my jaw is dropped listening to this story. This is exactly. You said right, Angie. Who knew? Yeah, this is a mess. So that's Kimberly's exit. After Jarvis finds out that his sister then reached out to Kimberly, that's it. And no more calls with Kimberly at least through August of whenever Anna has those calls. So whether it's August of 24 or August of 25, I'm inclined to believe it's August of 24. Because remember, in September is when he was charged with the murder. So I think it was August of 24. So she said that she has the messages up to that point, right? You said I told you exactly. So you was gonna be on Love After Lockup, trying to be a pen pal, just be trying to crack the case. Okay, so you would have been on them calls too. You would have been on there too, and he would have had three-way Kimberly calling you, and he would have told three. You might not have really been the baby mama, but he would have told three-way Kimberly you was the baby mama because he would have had some reason why he needed her to call you. So you would have been the baby mama by proxy in order for him to be able to call you on that phone. And girl, you know that call to you was going to be some more money because he had to call. It's not in these states. So he was definitely going to need three-way Kimberly to call you. No, I am not. I ain't talking to no murderers and serial killers and shit. I ain't doing that kind of investigation. I will just investigate from afar. I will believe the accounts of the other people who said that they went. I'm not going into the trenches and doing none of that, just be. I ain't that kind of investigator. Okay, I investigate from afar where it is safe. Okay. So now let's move on to Latricia. And y'all, I'm gonna have to do a speed through on this one because I got to get off of here. I got to do some work, y'all. I got an 11 o'clock meeting. So I'm gonna try to go through Latricia real quick. So Latricia is on the next cause is Latricia. Latricia is the child probably is older than 2 now, but was 2 at the time of her testimony on the stand. She is the other one who testifies. She is the one whose car he wrecked up. Okay. Around the time of Naziah's demise, right? So Latricia, he got Latricia riding by the baby mama's houses to see if the cars is there. This is what she's doing. This is what's happening on the call. He got a ride by Angel house to see if his truck, or I guess he's supposed to have a truck there. Then he got a riding by Tachi house to see if some other kind of car of his is there. Latricia confirmed all them gone. They all gone. Okay. So then I guess Latricia gets, it's a more conversation between the two of them. But remember, I got to speed through this one because we spent so much time on the other stuff. So it's a more conversation between the two of them. But then it gets to the point where then Latricia is brought for questioning. Did they come? They want to search a car. They didn't take Latricia's car. They searched the car the first time. Now, I don't know at some point if they did end up taking Latricia's car, but they searched her car, she said, on this one particular car that we heard so far. And when she got on the stand, I think she confirmed that too, that they just searched her vehicle. And so, but I don't know, like I said, if at some point they ended up taking her car too. So they come and talk to her. It is revealed to Latricia all the stuff about the fiance. Latricia did not know, y'all, that Shannon even had a baby. And that the baby and Latricia baby is the same age. Jarvis started going off on the call saying Shannon is a liar. Same way he was going off and talking about Shannon with Kimberly. Same way he was talking about Shannon with Latricia. She's a dumb bitch. Just going off. He was telling Latricia, because Latricia was over talking him, he was telling Latricia to shut the F up. All types of stuff. You just running your mouth. You need to be quiet and listen to what I'm trying to say. Obviously, he had accused Latricia of doing a whole bunch of cheating. And Latricia was like, "Why you accusing me of doing the cheating? You're the one doing the cheating." And he try to get us off with, and he apologizing. But then Latricia ain't buying it. So then that voice raised up again. His voice going up and down, up and down. He telling her to shut the hell up, telling her she talked too much. All the pimp talk came back in. By the end of those calls, Latricia is not buying none of this. So Jarvis threatens Latricia. Y'all, Jarvis tells Latricia, and we don't know right now. We was left with a cliffhanger. Because we don't know what Jarvis meant when he said this. Jarvis basically tried to tell Latricia, look, if you don't want to be with me no more, I can understand that. I understand if you don't want to be with me, I can't do nothing about that. I understand the situation. But you're not going to keep my child from me. So Latricia suggests that maybe, yes, she is going to keep the child from him. And Latricia lets us know, nigga, your name ain't even on the child birth certificate. So don't even look at this like it's your child. Right? That's what Latricia said. So then Jarvis asked her, are you serious, bitch? Are you serious? That's how you gonna do it? That's how you carrying it? This how you carrying me? Oh, okay. So then he tells her, you don't want to play this game with me. He tells her she don't want to play this game. She not ready for this game that she's trying to start with him, right? And he tells her, I can ruin your life with one phone call. Child, We don't know what the hell that shit is about. We don't know what that was about when Jarvis said that. He can ruin her life with one phone call. But what we can tell you is that Jarvis advised Latricia to clean that car. He advised Latricia to clean that car. Y'all know the call that happened, I think maybe on 2 to 3 batches of calls ago, where he tells her to get rid of anything that he might have touched. So that's who he was talking to, her. The one he told to go get the mother car, that was her. Remember I was saying that that's the one that testified on the stand? So I don't know if that threat was about anything doing with Naziah or him or her helping him to get rid of some evidence, or if it was a threat that he was going to have somebody come do something to her, or if it was a threat that he was going to call Child Protective Services with something that he know. I don't know what that threat was, but Jarvis told her he could ruin her life with one phone call. And that's the cliffhanger we got, y'all. That is the last call so far. Now, at the end, Anna B does not say that that's the last calls between him and Latricia. So I think we're going to get some more. We can't. Anna B is screening these calls. She's trying to make sure that she keeps certain things out to protect people from their private information and stuff. So we got to give her some time, right? She's working. So there might be some more calls with Latricia. They might give us some more insight to what that threat is about. But right now, that's all we got. That he said he can make one phone call that will ruin her life. On that note, y'all, I got to go because I got to do some work. I love y'all. I love y'all coming in here and talking to me. This was a good conversation today. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Angie Tears, Just V Miller, Michelle, thank y'all for coming in here. Everybody to catch it on a replay. Leave me your comments, questions, suggestions in the comments, and I will respond to you. And you guys, y'all have an amazing, amazing Friday. And if I don't talk to you guys, have an amazing Mother's Day weekend. Peace.